I interviewed Elise Darma, and this is the highlight reel. In her interview, she tells us about how to grow on Instagram. She's fantastic on Instagram, and in fact, you can join her free course on how to get 1,000 subscribers within 30 days. I'll put a link in the description below. If you want to see the full interview, you can of course follow the link. In the highlight reel, she tells us about a couple other things too. Elise tells us about building a team. She talks about transitioning from a side hustle to a full-time gig, how she stays motivated, and the role that Mastermind Groups have played in her success. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. I'm not very good at Instagram. I don't put a lot of effort in, so it's totally my own fault. But for me, I'm sort of thinking, like, do I have to post all the time and like really nurture and spend time on Instagram like each and every single day? Can you just kind of explain it to me in layman's terms?
Consistency is definitely key on Instagram. You'll hear that a lot probably if you start looking up Instagram marketing materials. But your audience wants to know that you're going to be there for them. You know, it's kind of like if you have a YouTube channel, which you do, and you let your subscribers know new video every Tuesday. It's kind of the same idea with Instagram. If they get used to seeing a new post, a new piece of content from you on, let's say, a daily basis, they're going to want to see that. And when you do stop that consistency, you're going to see a drop in followers and a drop in engagement. So it is a commitment. You know, it doesn't just happen overnight or without the effort. I tell business owners to focus on Instagram if that is where your perfect target ideal customers are. If that's where they're hanging out, then it's probably worth your commitment to building that brand, building that feed on Instagram. But more than that, I mean, people want to get value from Instagram. They don't want to be sold to or marketed to by following you on Instagram. So I define value in 3 ways in terms of Instagram land. You can give value by inspiring people, by educating people, and by entertaining people. And your feed can be one of those things or a mix of those things. But that's generally why someone will follow you, like a personal brand account or a business brand account, is they want to be entertained, educated, or inspired. And if you can do that on a consistent daily basis, I say daily because it's usually the best frequency that most people can stick with. It could even be just weekdays, like Monday to Friday post every day. But if you can do that daily, then you are going to attract your target people and your tribe on Instagram.
Maybe hire other people to do it, and it's like, oh, that's the worst advice.
Yeah. Oh man, outsourcing, like someone that you're just meeting from the internet, and then it's all going under your name. That is like a recipe for disaster for me.
Yeah, very scary. So
yeah.
Interesting. And now, I guess, do you outsource anything now? Do you have any VAs or anything like that?
Yes, business has definitely changed. I would say for the first 2 years, I did mostly everything on my own. The very first contracted job I hired someone out for was to help with the writing aspect. So I turned to people I already knew, like in the flesh. I knew these people as friends, as coworkers. I wasn't hiring overseas, and I was able to bring them on as ghostwriters. And today I have a team of about 5 contractors, and they help me with all the agency side of things. So I've got a designer, I've got a social media marketer, I've got a writer. And then for my Elise Darma business, which is more of the coaching and the education space, I have a marketing VA and an ads person, and now potentially a video person as well. So definitely as you grow, you know, you're gonna need to hire and add people to your team. Some people recommend to go all in, like burn the bridge and quit your job and go all in. I've never advised that because my story was very different. I am someone who loves their security. As much as I love to travel, I call myself a vagabonding homebody. You know, I love having a home base. I love having a secure level of income. And that was the scariest part about quitting my full-time job, was leaving behind that consistent paycheck and benefits. So for me, my strategy was to hold on to both my day job and my clients on the side for as long as I could possibly do both. I did both for 9 months. Some people are ready to ditch their day job after 3 months or 6 months. You know, I purposely wanted to hold on and save money and just create a little nest egg because I was pretty confident in myself, but it's still just such a massive leap, a massive life change. I just didn't really know what was going to happen, so I wanted to set myself up for success as much as possible. So I recommend that to anyone else. If they have the inkling to have their own business, keep your current situation as is. And yes, you are going to have to work beyond your day job. When I had my day job, I was working 15 to 20-ish hours on top of it. So it meant 2 nights a week and a weekend day. You have to make sacrifices if you want to get to that level, right? So I do recommend to people work on either developing that skill on the side of your day job, that skill that you can use in the online world, or work on developing your business on the side of your day job. And then once you have that momentum, then you can kind of make the decision like, oh, am I going to quit or not? Because it's a whole different picture when you are your own boss. You aren't just doing services for your clients, you are doing the marketing of your business. You're doing the finances, the vision planning, the accounting, the nitty-gritty tech stuff. Like, you do have to do a lot. You want to prepare yourself as much as possible. So I know that's not super sexy advice and exciting, but to me it's more practical. And I was advising any friend to do something like that. That's exactly what I would tell them to do.
Me too, 100% agree. I mean, I had a side thing for like 2 years and I got laid off. So it was kind of like a little push, but yeah, I mean, I would have stayed with it for even longer if I could have. Like you said, steady paycheck, benefits, all the good things. So yeah. I get a lot of questions about like how to stay motivated when maybe things aren't exactly going your way and you have your full-time job, you're trying to put the time in on the side. Like, how did you stay motivated when, you were tired or just shit was going wrong?
It was hard. For 9 months, I was sacrificing, like I said, 2 nights a week or a beautiful Saturday morning and afternoon. So you really have to be committed to the grander vision and understanding that you're not doing this for the rest of your life. It's a temporary phase that you're in to prepare yourself and give yourself the best shot at having your own business full time. So I surrounded myself with people who understood where I was at. My boyfriend at the time worked in a really young, fast-paced startup. His best friend was the CEO of that startup. So they became my go-to advisors in a non-formal sense. And I actually ended up pulling back and pulling away from my friends who didn't get it. And maybe they just didn't have any experience with business. Maybe they didn't understand why I was working so much. But I found that I had to become really protective over my energy and who I was spending it with. And, that saying, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most, that became really apparent in the first summer of juggling both day job and side business. I started having weird experiences with friends, which is actually totally normal. I've since learned. So if you have tension or a fight or something with family or friends, it is normal. Like, that's totally fine. But it made me retreat. It made me just get really protective because I was already putting myself out there on a limb, doing stuff that was really new, even building any kind of public-facing brand. I'd never done that before. I had to take care of myself. I had to watch my own back and make sure that I was surrounding myself with people who I didn't have to question whether they supported me or not. They just did. So I think that's where I got my motivation from. They kept me on track. They kept me, when things got tough, they kept me, alert to the bigger vision, the bigger picture. And a year later, I was working remotely from, Bali and then Costa Rica, then Hawaii, and it did start to happen. But yeah, you have to be really strategic about who you spend your time with.
How was it traveling and working at the same time?
Yeah, and one extra side note to that story was there was a major catalyst in my life to make travel happen. So as much as I'd loved travel, I started traveling as a kid. I have family all over the world. When I was 18, I finished high school and I went on a 30-day trip to Europe with Contiki. That was like, oh, wow, the world is so big and beyond my bubble. I spent my whole 20s chasing that feeling of freedom through travel. I worked on a cruise ship. I moved across Canada. And it was interesting timing when I quit my day job. Was just getting into the new rhythm of working from home. I didn't have an office. I worked from my dining table. Wouldn't recommend that. Get a proper desk and chair. And just feeling a little sad about not being around my coworkers who were my good friends, who you see them every day. But a month and a half, 2 months after quitting, I went through a horrible breakup, totally blindsided. And that's what actually put me into a tailspin of feeling extremely scared and alone for the situation I had just created, right? Like I just lost my coworker network. I just lost what I thought to be true with my relationship. It was a really interesting time because it really made me think about my family the most and just think like, you know what, they are the steady people there for me. And of course I had a few friends too, but in my haze of breakup depression and bewilderment, it was a friend of mine who really pushed me to book a trip to get out of my environment. And I already knew that I was going to go to Australia for a family wedding. And it was because of this friend who encouraged me to stay traveling for a while. That's when I booked the 3-month trip to do Australia, Bali, Hawaii, my own Eat, Pray, Love. And then, that effectively was the first trip I took as a digital nomad. That was the first time I took my new business on the road, and that was not my intention. I just realized this like a year ago, like, that breakup didn't happen. I don't know if I would have traveled like I did. But it's so funny how, you get that hindsight and that perspective on life after you're out of it. But that's what was the catalyst for that trip away, leave Toronto winter, go to the warmth, have some time and space to heal and just be by myself and meet new people. And that was the catalyst for the, digital nomad travelpreneur brand and business that I have today.
Are you in any mastermind groups, or have you been over the years to, help you grow your business and that sort of thing?
I am. So for the first couple of years of my agency business, I just was a lone soldier, figured things out, asked my advisors. And then that summer of realizing I wanted to grow a business, that's when I started focusing on my personal account as a portfolio piece, essentially. And then when my personal account really had momentum, I think around 25,000, 30,000 followers, that's when I realized, I could hire someone who could help me figure out how to grow this as a business. That was the first time I realized a business coach was a thing. So that was the first time that I hired a coach. We worked together for 5 months to work on, really at that time, I was creating a new second business and I didn't realize it. So I needed that help to figure out who this new audience was. Why were they following me? What did they want to learn? Turns out they wanted to learn Instagram marketing and how to have your own business. So this was 2016. So since then, it's really just been tapping into that network, learning who those people are and serving them as much as I possibly can. And then just last year was when I joined a mastermind for the first time. So that was when my business had grown. So, my revenue hit over 6 figures for the first time. Because for the first couple of years of running my own business, my revenue was pretty steady. I was one person doing services and I didn't know how to scale it. So I was typically making the same amount every year. And with the lifestyle business, I was fine with that. I just wanted to work remotely. And then when I realized I wanted to grow a business and start to work towards financial freedom, that's when my goal shifted. That's when I hired a coach. That's when I hit 6 figures. After I hit 6 figures, new benchmark, new goal to hit. And then I joined a mastermind, which has also helped increase my revenue too.
Gotcha. And I think mastermind there's multiple definitions. So is this like a group that you joined and paid, or it's like a group of, few people, you guys chat every couple of weeks, or a combination? Or what's your definition? That's a better question.
This particular mastermind is a group that I've joined with other entrepreneurs, and we all pay a monthly fee essentially, but it's a year-long commitment. So when I made that commitment to join, it was fairly serious because it's not a membership site where you can try it for a couple months and then cancel it. This was a signing a contract, 12-month commitment, and which is very scary when you're committing to a big chunk of your revenue every month. with the hopes of growing your business. But luckily for me, it was a good decision and it's helped me grow my revenue. But if that's not a possibility for you, I definitely recommend forming a little coalition mastermind with people who just get it, like they're working on the same thing as you. Before I ever had a paid mastermind, I connected with a friend of mine in the city that I lived in, Toronto, and we were both working on two totally different businesses. Hers was a software-based business, creating a meal planning software for nutritionists, and mine was service-based. But because we were both doing it kind of alone, we agreed to meet up with each other once a month at a coffee shop. We kind of had a loose agenda of what to talk about, like our wins, our losses, our lessons learned, our goals for the next month. But it just turned out to be kind of business therapy, and it was perfect. Like it was a reason to get out of the house. It was a reason to feel like I'm not the only one feeling like this. So yeah, I definitely recommend connecting with someone in your city in person once a month if you're not going to do the paid route just yet.
Cool. And the groups that I've been in were more like the latter, and totally like the business therapy stuff. Like that's kind of what it ends up being. This is the, side hustle business ideas that you may have, maybe you don't have time to pursue. You sound very busy. You probably don't have time to do it. So do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I have a ton of ideas. I have my 7 streams of revenue mapped out for my business for the next year. I'm probably halfway through them all. But as I continue to grow my team and scale my business, what I would love to do if I had more time is actually e-commerce product sales. I'm super interested in that. I've gone to quite a few business conferences this past year, and the emphasis on Amazon especially was really, really eye-opening. So I am working in the background on learning about e-commerce and physical product sales. So that's one area I'm super interested in. The other is affiliate marketing as well. That's another area I know next to nothing about. So I'm also working on that for my business in learning what it takes to, leverage affiliate marketing. Yeah, like when it comes to side hustle ideas of services, it's really interesting. If you're listening right now and you're wondering what you could offer, it's really, really helpful to get on a phone call with a business owner like myself or like Doug and ask them, like, what is so annoying for you to deal with during the day, or what keeps you up at night? Because it can be as specific as offering a service to run someone's Instagram stories for them. There's been so much buzz on Instagram this year, especially. And when I talk to business owners, they are stressed out about it. They do not want to deal with it, the time it will take. They don't want to put their life, for all the world to see. So you could get super specific. Like if you figure out a system to just run someone's Instagram stories for them, like that's a service someone will pay you for every single month so that they don't have to stress about it. So I'd encourage you to really look to the nitty gritty details of a business. Even, like Doug has a podcast. Like you can do something so specific as just learning podcast editing software and being the go-to podcast editor or the go-to podcast publisher. So I really recommend looking into those niche skills. And if you don't have them, there's a ton of online courses you can take these days to get up to speed. So that would be my recommendation for someone who's looking at a service-based business in today's day and age.